to you. I mean, you've dedicated your life to helping animals and have been passionate since a child. So then how did you turn your passion into action?
Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think the answer to that question is I always did whatever I could at the time. So that in the early stages was things like if I was going to do anything like a bungee jump or a sponsored walk, it was going to be for animal conservation. It would have been for an animal charity. That would have been the recipient of my efforts. And at that time, that was pretty much all I could do. It was just any kind of. I had long hair when I was in my 20s, and one of my employers enforced the haircut, and I made sure that I used that. I had my hair cut and said, I mean, how ridiculous! Literally, someone just cut my hair, and I raised about 300 quid, I think. But it was for the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society. So literally anything that I could do at any given time was how I turned it into action. But what really kick-started everything was when I was really late into acting. I only got into acting in my mid-30s. So I already had half of a lifetime career behind me in the corporate world, and then I suddenly became an actor. And as that started to take off, and when I say take off, it's kind of small scale, but the biggest thing I was involved in was a Disney TV series. And when that happened, that pretty much kick-started when I could really start speaking out for animals, because a lot of charities then approached me and said, will you be an ambassador or a patron? Because of course I had a little bit of a following, and it was a really important following too, because it was youngsters, Disney fans. And so it was really important to get the message across to them. And that's where things really started to change for me in terms of being able to have a platform to where my voice could be heard. I can see some wonderful friends appearing, Alison, Rudy, all sorts of names that I recognize. Hello, folks. It's lovely to see your names pop up.
And so we kind of alluded to it just now, but I know from when I've been doing a bit of research about you and that kind of thing, you said that this is something that you've been passionate about since you can remember, and it was probably helped by your dad. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my dad, bless him. My dad would be, how old would he be now? My dad would be 111 by now if he was still alive. He was a very old. He was 62 when I was born. Very old dad, and the only reason I mention that is because I think it's also interesting that he was very progressive in terms of his views on animals, because of course animal conservation, animal welfare, this whole movement, this whole community that we're all part of, I think it's growing rapidly. The same as something like veganism, it's growing rapidly. We're at a good time for all these awakenings, this conscious awareness of the things that we believe in, and the further back you go, the less that was true. And so for that reason, I was always really impressed with the fact my dad was very progressive. He was a member of the League Against Cruel Sports when I was a kid, so way back when it was all, he was anti-fox hunting, anti anything to do with animal cruelty. And I guess that he just imparted that upon me and my brother naturally. It just happened. So it was instilled in us from a very, very early age. And my mum too. I mean, my mum is a very compassionate person, but my dad he lived and breathed it. He used to take my brother and I out every morning for a walk down by the river in Kew, bird watching. And so I'm an absolute geek, when it comes to wildlife, absolute geek. And I think that's what really, really instilled. It's in our genetics, it's in our DNA because of my dad primarily. And so he just always taught us a huge respect and consideration for wildlife and nature, because that's what he had. He taught it to us by example more than anything else, not by, not by enforcing that or teaching it in any way other than setting the example. He just gave us that. It was him that I'd put it down to most of all.
And you're a patron for Born Free, also for Voice for Asian Elephants, and you're also an ambassador for International Aid for the Protection and Welfare of Animals, alongside Angels for the Innocent Foundation. So what is it about these organizations that kind of speaks to you, and how did you get involved with that?
And the other thing is, Kathleen, I've got a terrible memory. I always have had, but I just turned 50 last year, and my memory is getting worse and worse. But I think there's 11 in total who I'm an ambassador or a patron for. And I know, and this is why I just mentioned that, I know going into this conversation, I won't remember them all. which is an honor in itself. It's like to be in that position, to be a patron or ambassador for that many. But on top of that list that you just said, there's remembering wildlife. In fact, Margot, who you had on a couple of interviews ago, Margot very graciously made me an ambassador several years ago. And indeed, she and Born Free and the others, of which, as I say, there are many more. Action for Rhinos, One Voice for Animals, Val Green, who's about to celebrate their second birthday. The charity, not Val. Val's not two. That'd be ridiculous. But it's all of that really has happened since as I say, the advent of something of a profile in acting, which I have to say, I've taken my eye off the ball in that regard over the last couple of years for various reasons, like family health crisis that we're dealing with, and all sorts of other focuses, including a documentary that I'm making. But it's just taken my eye off the ball with acting just temporarily, and it is temporary. There's still stuff happening. In fact, there's great stuff happening, and the importance of that to me is is exactly the point that I'm making in my answer to your question. Really, the way that all of this patronage or ambassadorship happened was through having any kind of a profile. That's when any of that stuff started to happen. Prior to that, I was just a guy doing what I could, which of course is an enormously important thing. Everyone should be doing what they can. Just like I said, even if it's something as ludicrous as a sponsored haircut, that's absolutely right that people should be, and I'm sure are. These names I'm seeing pop up, these are folks who I absolutely depend upon to support everything, and they're taking action every bit as much as I am in the way that they can. But for me, all of this higher profile stuff, if you can call it that, in regards to being a patron or being an ambassador, that all came about as a result of the success, even the limited success I had in acting, and then tend to become even more successful in acting with that being the main incentive. Acting's great and I love it and I'm passionate about it, but my purpose in life is animal welfare, animal conservation. That's my purpose in life. And the beautiful thing is, my acting career facilitates that, as does my filmmaking career. So it's one facilitates the other, and it makes it worthwhile. It makes it justifiable to me, because in and of itself, could I justify any of it without the outcome of being able to speak up for animals? I'm not so sure. I don't know if I could. Not that you need a justification for doing what you do, but I just feel like more and more I feel like I have to use that platform, use those forms of media either as an actor or a filmmaker to deliver a message. That's why I, for example, made that short film called Freedom. I could have made a film about anything, and it'd be a whole lot easier to make a film that's just, I guess, meant to make people laugh or make them scared. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, that was just a thing that came to mind off the back of the pandemic. And actually, I'll tell you what it was that specifically led to me making Freedom, was the fact that I caught a glimpse of a newspaper that come through the door. And I hasten to add, I don't read the newspaper. I've trained myself about 20 years ago to just detach from the news, because, like, why would you? It's just that you're going to get inundated with negativity. And I don't buy that I need to be informed, because you are by things like social media. But I withdrew from watching or reading the news. But I just happened to glance down at a newspaper that was sitting on the doormat in my house that had been posted through the letterbox. And it was just a month or two after the pandemic started. And it said, it was one of those ridiculous headlines, said something like, people at the end of their tether as lockdown starts to take its toll. And I thought, oh, here we are. So here we are 2 months into a lockdown, which is for our benefit. It's been communicated to us very effectively, and we know it will come to an end. Those sort of 3 key points really hit home with me, because I thought, how about an animal in a zoo for whom it's not being communicated, because it can't be. It's not for their benefit, it's for our entertainment, and it's never going to come to an end. And I thought, this is a really good opportunity to jump, because what hit me really hard was the fact that people in lockdown were going, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of lockdown so I can go to the zoo. And I just thought, no, you can't. You don't get to say that without me getting to say what I want to say. That's what freedom is all about. Yeah. And it's just that kind of necessity in my heart to make my business relevant to my purpose in life, which is animal welfare, animal conservation.
Yeah, and I know, for example, you talking about the film that you did, and I think it was Born Free as well, did a great video showing clips of animals in zoos relating to how that translates to them in lockdown. And I think I'm hoping that more awareness is now given to what these animals are going through. Do you think that has been the case, or do you think everyone's just going to slip back to as it was before?
It's a great question. I think I'm always aware of how important it is to remain positive. I've learned that not just from experience, but from people like Will Travers and Virginia McKenna from Born Free, and because you ask them how they remain positive in this space we work in, which can be so dark and so demoralizing, and they say you've got to celebrate the victories, you've got to focus on the positives. So I keep that very firmly in the forefront of my mind as I say this. But when the pandemic started, I actually had this sense of hope in my mind and my heart, the same as I did when Avatar came out. I was so naive. Avatar came out and I watched it and I thought, oh, this is gonna shake people awake. But it's another movie that a lot of people went and saw and thought, oh, this is amazing. Missed the point about the poignancy of what it was saying we are doing, and then they just carry on with their life. And I had that same sense of hope when the pandemic started. I thought this is going to make people at least review their relationship with the natural world, with animals, with themselves, and I'm sure to an extent it has. And of course, there's no hard and fast definitives here. There's no, it didn't work, or yes, it did work, because for various individuals it would have had a different impact. But what I do know is that where, to the best of my ability, where I've explored this, what it seems to have done more than anything is it's cemented or reinforced who someone already was. In other words, people like us, people like these wonderful folks watching, if you're already engaged, if you're already aware of the importance of environmental care and animal conservation and all the things that we love and so passionately fight for, if you were already aware of that, this pandemic just made you all the more aware.
Yeah.
If you weren't, you were one of those people just sat at home going, let me get out and go to the zoo. And I worry that what happened more than anything was it just, as I say, just reinforced that mindset that someone already had. Mm. And I think it brought out some beauty, and it enhanced that in people who were already and of course, as I say, there's no finite, there's no infinite, there's no definitives, in so much as there would have been people who didn't care before, and this would have just flicked a switch in them and they would now care. But equally, there's probably those folks who really did care, and then suddenly it all became about them because they just wanted to get out and they couldn't handle being locked down. But I think ultimately I always used to think of it as a crossroads. The pandemic put us at a crossroads, but no one was forced in any direction. Everyone had a choice. And my view is that most people stayed on the path they were already on. They just perhaps started to walk a bit faster down it. That's my view of it.
And I mean, you've traveled the world and raised awareness for all different kinds of animals, from stray dogs to lions and tigers. Has there been an animal or a story that has kind of provoked the strongest reaction in you?
Yeah. It's interesting. Well, that question is really interesting because it's almost it's almost like saying what's your favorite food, and it kind of depends what mood you're in, or what's your favorite movie, and the reason I say this, I don't mean to sound cheesy when I say this, but literally one of the reasons I'm so passionately involved in animal conservation is because to me every single species, every single life, every single individual animal matters as much as the rest. And that's what I love about Born Free and others that I work with whose mentality is exactly that. It's compassionate conservation. It's each individual animal, such as King, the lion cub, who Born Free did that amazing job of relocating into the Shamwari Game Reserve, their big cat sanctuary there, from a Paris apartment. And there he is, from a Paris apartment in a dog cage, half starved to death. And so I can't possibly not talk about King as being someone who had that absolutely deep and incredible, profound impact on me, as did Olive, the rescue dog from Romania, who everyone watching probably knows and loves because she became a little bit of a celebrity herself, has a Facebook fan page and has the best dog mum on planet Earth. And there she is. What an absolute angel. She's just incredible. And she's happy and healthy, everyone, by the way. She's doing incredibly well. Thanks to her amazing dog mum. But she also had a huge impact on me. But I have to probably say, if forced, the biggest, most profound impact I ever felt was Sudan, when I met Sudan. For the simple reason that, it's hard for me to talk about without, I feel myself welling up because I can remember walking. I was with Margot Raggett from Remembering Wildlife. I had the unbelievable honor of being at the Alpegita Conservancy where Sudan lived out his life with his daughter and granddaughter. And I knew we were going to see Sudan, but I had no idea it was going to be any different to when you're on safari and you catch a glimpse of a rhino and you get some photographs from a couple of 100 feet away. No. We walked around the corner past that fence that you're seeing in the photo, and there he was. And as you can see in the photo, I was not only did I get to be close to him, I actually got to put my arms around him, tickle him behind the ears. It took me, I think Margot would probably be able to confirm, 20 minutes to stop crying. I could not believe what I was, and the reason why is not just because of the unbelievable privilege of being in the presence of a dinosaur the size of a transit van, but the last living male of his species. And that's what hit me so hard. That's why Sudan's the top of my list in terms of the impact, because you were staring extinction in the face. And I could not, it's like I'm covered in goosebumps and on the verge of tears just thinking about it, because you knew that he was the last of his kind as far as the male of the species, and you knew that it was all down to us. And all I could do was to try and impart on him, because you can't do it through language. You just through your heart and just through feelings and just through trying to project onto him the deep sympathy, the sorrow, the most profound apology that I could express on behalf of my species, because of what we did to his. And it took me, honestly, 20 minutes. Margot was going to film me talking to camera for her Remembering What Rhinos campaign. So first was Remembering Elephants, as she'll have discussed on your show. And then the second book in the series was Remembering Rhinos. And this was why it was Remembering Rhinos. We were there to explore the different possibilities, or Margot at least was there to explore the different possibilities. And I just had this incredible privilege of being permitted to join her on that experience. And I think it was that experience, certainly for me, the most profound I've ever had, and probably for Margot too. It's probably what sealed the deal in terms of the next book being Remembering Rhinos. Yeah. And you just were so deeply, profoundly sorry to him. And I never forget, if you ever catch the videos on YouTube, on Facebook somewhere, it got semi-viral. It's had about like 250,000 or more views. And I'm just, after having composed myself after these 20 minutes of sobbing like a child, Margot finally said, "Look, dude, we're going to have to get this done. So pull yourself together." And I did a bit to camera. And I said, at some point, I said something along the lines of, "I'm so deeply sorry. I'm overwhelmed by these feelings of being so sorry for what we have done to his species." And as I said it, he let out this almighty sigh. His nose was on the ground. Like, there's another photo you might have where he's just got his nose resting. He used to just sit with his nose resting on the ground, and his nostrils, he just went, and the dust kicked up. As I said, "I'm so profoundly sorry for what my species has done to yours." Yeah. It was absolutely the most profound thing that's ever happened to me. And it's painful in the extreme as well. I mean, it's not just a privilege and a beautiful thing to have met him and sat with him like that, and only a year or so before he died as well. It was close, but just as I say, the fact that he was the last of his kind, the last male of his kind, and that you knew, like, unless we Jurassic Park it with the whole embryo thing they do, I can't remember what it's called now, the whole, the artificial insemination from the crossbreeding of the southern white rhino to the northern white. So it's never really the same. And it's literally like Jurassic Park. We bring them back. And if they manage that, it's going to be like $9 million per rhino or something ridiculous. And we've already failed. If that's all that keeps the species alive, we failed. Yeah. And we failed them. And it was just, my God, the profound nature of the impact of that. I'll never forget it. And we went to his grave a couple of years later when I was over there filming a documentary with Katie Cleary, the founder of Peace for Animals. She's just released the film, in fact. It's a one to watch out for. We Are One? No, she's going to kill me for not remembering the name of it. It's she's done 2 documentaries. This was the second one, and Clint Eastwood's in it, talking about his feelings on the importance of conservation. And we went to Sudan's grave, which, of course, by that time he'd passed away, and that hit me like a ton of bricks as well. That was the next time I was in Alpegita. So it's an astounding experience, which I'm glad to have had, but man, it was painful.
Yeah. No, yeah. It as you say, you were looking at extinction in its face, and that must have been a very, very painful moment for you. We've got a question coming through from Winnie. Hi, Winnie. She was the one who actually set us up. So thank you very much, Winnie.
Indeed. Thank you, Winnie. Thank you so much.
And she's asking, what was your most precious moment when you took King to his freedom? Was it when he stepped out of his container onto grass for the first time? And it must have been so overwhelming.
That's exactly what it was, Winnie. Exactly that. It was. There's a little video that I managed to cut. Born Free have done a much better video of it. You'll be able to see that on their social media and on their webpage, I'm sure. Yeah, that was an epic journey. And look at what Born Free did. I mean, that's on the left there. That's little King in a dog cage in a Paris apartment where he was abused and starved. And over on the right there, same lion, thanks to Born Free and their views on compassionate conservation, that point I was making about every single animal matters. There was a team of, I think, 6 of them, and I was privileged enough to escort them from Belgium, where Rudy we have on this interview right now. I saw Rudy's name pop up. Rudy and Ingrid over in Belgium had King in their sanctuary for the 6 months or so, perhaps more, that it took for Born Free to get all the paperwork together and all the permissions, the flights, it's not, you don't just buy a seat for a lion. It's like, it's a little different. And the work that went in from Rudy and Ingrid and from Born Free and everybody involved, Kenya Airways who put King on the flight, I believe they covered the cost of that. But the immense amount of work that went into that. And the journey was epic. And I had the pleasure of meeting him for the first time in Belgium at Rudy and Ingrid's place, and where they had taken unbelievable care of him. He was already healed, thanks to them and the love that they gave him. And they let him be a lion. That's what it was. They let him be a lion. And it was so difficult because you can't communicate to animals other than just trying to impart that love and respect, and all you can hope is that they feel it from you, because you can't say, hey, don't worry, this is going to be a hell of a 36 hours for you, but everything's going to be fine. He's not going to understand that. He just wants to kill you because he's feeling threatened. And we got him into his crate, his travel crate, tiny little thing, but it has to be for his own safety. And that from that point on, he's going to be on the road, on a plane, on another plane, then on the road again. And 36 hours later, back to Winnie's question, the most beautiful moment of that whole journey, and the point at which not just, all of the culmination of all the work and effort of everybody that went into saving King's life, giving him a second and a real life, not just a second chance, but a real life as a lion. The culmination of all that work and this moment when, as Winnie said quite rightly, he steps out and for the first time in his life, he's got his paws on African soil. He's feeling the African sunshine on his face. It's another one of those moments that just fills me, like I'm covered in goosebumps thinking about it. And the privilege to see that, where he literally just trotted out of his travel crate onto this true African, like the land of his heritage. It was the most beautiful moment. I think there were probably about 50 people witnessing that, and about 50 of them were in tears at the time. It's just the most beautiful thing. And this is what I love. I think you asked me a question which I flat out ignored a little while ago about, what is it about those organizations that I love? That's a great example. That's what Born Free are all about. Not just the bigger work, or the broader work, I should say, in terms of, campaigns that perhaps save an entire species or go towards the conservation of an entire species, but the individual animal that matters just so much. And as Patricia's just saying there, so many people followed King's journey. And there's Dave, look at that, everyone, oh, hi guys, so nice to see you guys. And there's, talk about organizations that do incredible work. Olsen Animal Trust, my God, I mean, just angels on earth, these folks, and Dave included. And, it's that kind of being involved in that kind of effort and just being inspired by these people, Born Free included, with what they did with King. That's what they do. Here we are talking about it, however long later, what is it, 4 or 5 years ago that happened. And it still has this incredible, profound impact on anyone who saw it, anyone who was involved. And since then, Born Free, Olsen Animal Trust, Voice for Asian Elephants, One Voice, all of these guys that we're talking about, and Margot as well, 6 books later, they daily, they're just continuing to do the same thing. And this is why I find it such a privilege. I'm so privileged and honored to support and shine what little light I can on these folks, because they're the heroes. And that's why I couldn't be more honored. And you too, you know, this is, as we were discussing before we went live, the fact that you're doing this just to provide some kind of a platform in challenging times, because goodness knows it's challenging times for charities as well as everybody else. But charities, you know, I think it's fair to say about 50% of the donations to charity just fell off the face of the earth when the pandemic hit. So just to be involved in this wider effort, yourself included, absolute privilege.
Thank you very much. We have a question coming through from Loti. She was actually on our show a couple of weeks ago, and she's saying America's red wolf is critically endangered with less than 15 left in the wild, and they only live in North Carolina. What advice would you give to those of us trying to save them from extinction?
What a fantastic question, and what an incredible effort to be involved in. I mean, literally, what timing? Do you say Loti?
Yep.
Hi, Loti. It's nice to see your question, and thank you for the incredible work you do. 15 left in the wild. See that? So the advice I have in trying to save them from extinction is what I was talking about a few moments ago about Sudan. And at all costs, avoid being in that position. Never be looking at the last of the species. And I swear to God, I mean, I didn't know about this before, but I do now, and I'll be in touch with you to support in any way I can. We have got to just fight with every single ounce of energy that we have. And I hate, in a way, I hate using the word fight, because it's almost the wrong energy to apply to it. Yeah. You know, we've got to put everything into it, and now, because when you're down to 15, it's like the vaquita little dolphin in Mexico. I think DiCaprio was involved in that, and it, you know, that kind of voice being lent to a campaign like this really helps. So one of my pieces of advice there, Loti, would be engage with us and ask the question of as many big names as you can possibly get involved, and ask for favors. You know, don't hold back. I know that there's this. A lot of us have this inherent reluctance. Maybe, or you know, I'm not speaking for anyone but myself. But it's difficult to ask for stuff. It's difficult to ask for money, for favors, for. When it comes down to that kind of thing, when you've got 15 of the species left, all rules are off. Ask for favors. Anyone you know who knows someone famous, ask them. I'll do this. I'll do the same for you. I'll be honored to help, Loti. You can consider me in from this point forward. And anyone I know who can help, I will be happy to ask that question on your behalf, because you can't take your foot off the gas at this point with 15 left. Fight with everything you've got. And what else? I think it's just a case of leading by example. Because what you're doing is incredible. You know, when people see the compassion and the passion with which you stand up for a cause like that, for which you'll never get a thank you for. This is what I love about conservationists. It's not like King's going to say to Born Free, "Oh my God, guys, thank you so much. That was amazing." Like the same is true of all the species we're aiming to protect. They're not even aware we're doing it, but we have a responsibility to do it. And I think and this is where I just mentioned about, I don't like using the word fight, because I think by putting that energy into the world, which is just driven, everything you're doing, Loti, and same with you, Kathleen, everything that anyone in conservation is doing is driven by love. Ultimately, that's where it's coming from by default, and that's a beautiful thing, which is infectious. And I'd say just nurture that as much as possible, because I think it has an effect, and it might be a difficult one to measure, but I think it's incredibly effective.
I think as well, going back to what you're saying, that everything's done for love. So there's a lot of organizations that kind of take advantage of that. They know people love these animals. They know people are trying to do the right thing. So you have people greenwashing. You also have organizations saying, you know, you're rearing a orphaned lion cub, but actually it's the canned hunting situation, which is absolutely horrific. But what can people do back home to make sure that what they're doing is actually ethical, is actually genuine, and also kind of what can we do to work together to stop people being able to do this in the first place?
That's another great question. It's so important. You're absolutely right, because that's almost, it's unforgivable, isn't it? When you have people capitalizing on profiting from that love and compassion that, as you quite rightly said, there's some very, very dark people out there, very dark energies, and they know that they can cash in on that. And I have to just mention in that regard, there's an amazing film, and this kind of answers your question in terms of what people can do to ensure they're not getting wrapped up in that kind of thing. There's a couple of answers to that question, but one thing you can do is watch an amazing short film that was created by an amazing conservationist called Beth Jennings, who created a film called Claws Out. And in fact, if you go on Facebook, it's, I think, Talk to the Claw, at Talk to the Claw on Facebook. It's a Facebook page for this campaign and the film that I'm talking about. And what that is a film that Beth made because she was someone who fell victim to that scamming. So the lion petting, which is sold as this, oh, you know, it's amazing that you get, as a compassionate conservationist at heart, you get to come to Africa, paying for the privilege, of course. You're not just a volunteer, you're actually paying for the privilege to hand rear lion cubs. I mean, what could be more heartwarming than that? You're told that they're orphaned, you know, the mother was electrocuted or hunted or something. It's all garbage. They're bred for it, and they make money in 4 different ways along the way. First of which is the cub petting, or, you know, hand rearing cubs. Second of which is when they're adolescent, but not so big that they're a real threat. You do, like, walk with the lions experience, where you go on a sort of an African walk with a lion next to you, like the same as if it was a dog next to you, which is something else you'll pay for. And it's only because they're captive and only because they're tame. The next stage is the canned hunting. Same lions all the way through, canned hunting. So that some rich hunter pays for the privilege of coming over into an enclosed area, stalking it for a day or two, making themselves think they're a man and shooting it. And then not even after their death do they escape from this, because then their bones are sold for Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, which of course the whole thing's a myth in terms of any positive impact that lion bone would have on humans in any way that it's being pitched as, like aphrodisiac or whatever. It's, I don't know what garbage they're selling it on, but that's 4 ways they capitalize on these poor lions, all of which are bred for that purpose alone and nothing else. There is no orphaning of lions. There is no conservation involved. And Beth, having fallen victim to this, having done all the sanity checking that she could and the due diligence that she could at that time prior to going, got duped by it. And she wasn't prepared to sit back and just take that. So she made a film exposing it very bravely. And it's a brilliant film. Check it out. It's, as I say, it's on Facebook, and it's Talk to the Claws, or Talk to the Claw. And you'll find it. It's right there. Born Free also did an amazing animation on this same issue, yep. Which for the life of me, I can't, as I told you, I'm 50, I can't remember stuff. But they made an animation about the exact same issue, which I was interviewing Will Travers, the president of Born Free, on the Food for Thought live series that I did a couple of years ago. And we played that. And I had to get Will to talk for a while, because again, I was like in floods of tears just watching it. It's a real tearjerker, and it's brilliantly effective. And as I say, multiple award-winning animation. And so the reason I mention those is because one thing that people can do to help prevent this from happening, taking the second part of your question first, is spread that. Pick those things up from Born Free and from Beth's page about Claws Out, and share it. Get it out there. And even if just one person is educated by that, one person changes their plans, that's worth it. You know, every single mind we can change, every single person we can educate on these issues, it's crucially important. You know, every single one matters. And as well as that, and again, we have to keep account of the number of things I can't remember, because it's going to be embarrassing by the end. Born Free have got a campaign called something along the lines of the Red Flag campaign, which is designed to do exactly this. I see Sarah. Hello, Sarah. So nice to see your face pop up. Get onto Born Free's website. And if anyone is on from Born Free, I don't know if anyone from Born Free is watching, Joanne or Will or anybody, or anyone who can dive over to the Born Free website, because perhaps it can go into the chat and we can actually cover it in this interview. There's a campaign or a process that they put in place a few years ago for exactly this purpose. So where was your ability to check the validity of these organizations, and people who actually experience them are able to feed back information into this process that Born Free have created. Forgive me, because as I say, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's something along the lines of the Red Flag campaign, meaning you can raise a flag and say, hang on a second, this isn't Kushti, this isn't how it should be. And it's not just for those sorts of, lion cub petting outfits, the volunteer organizations that need to be, it's also charities, because they're not all legit. There's some very unscrupulous people out there. So that's something that people can do. And I think that if you ever experience it, God knows I hope you don't, but if you ever experience it, then flag it everywhere. Get it out in the circles that you move in social media and any other way you can. And I guess that raises the other point, which is the key challenge, is that raise the red flag. It was close, wasn't it?
You were close.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's exactly what they do. You can check the name of an organization against what Born Free have gathered in terms of data from people who've experienced those organizations. So that's one thing you can do for sure. And one of the biggest challenges we have is, everyone on this session, everyone on this in watching this, probably everyone, I hope I'm wrong, but probably everyone on this live broadcast and most people who will watch it are people who already agree with you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest challenge we have as a whole, as a community, is getting these messages out to the people who aren't watching this kind of interview, who aren't actively engaged in animal conservation already, and who do want to go on a lion petting holiday, thinking that they're doing some good, and they're going to come back and tell their stories at a dinner party, saying, "Oh my God, it was amazing," and they'll encourage others to do the same thing. So we've got to find a way of getting out to those folks who aren't already engaged in this community of ours. That's a challenge.
Yeah, I completely agree, because people are joining these pages and these conversations because they're already passionate. So it's trying to push it out to the wider people. So if someone is looking at you as something of a bit of a role model, and we're looking to do something similar, what advice would you give? And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier on in the conversation when we were talking about trying to keep positive and hope. What do you do to keep hopeful in what can sometimes be a bit of a bleak and overwhelming environment?
Well, yeah, that's a really great question. And I think that the answer is, to an extent, it's going to be individual to everybody. Nice to meet you too, Leslie. I think the answer to that question is whatever it is that grounds you. For me, I'll tell you what it is for me. It might not be the same for you. I think it probably will be for a lot of the folks watching, again, for the same reasons, that we're all kind of like-minded and we're all actively involved already. For me, it's nature, getting out into nature. It doesn't change anything. I don't mean for a moment that getting out into nature means that there's less bad news. It is bleak, as you just said. It can be very bleak. It's incredibly painful when you find that there's 15 of a species left. It's incredibly painful when you meet Sudan and he's the last male of his species. It's incredibly painful when you know how many failures there are along with the successes we celebrate. Getting out into nature doesn't change that, but it does ground me. It allows me to breathe. And it allows me to regain my strength, and it allows me to fight the next day. And again, I shouldn't use the word fight, but I carry on. That's the difference. And I suppose what it comes down to is finding that thing that's true for you. I go to the gym, I meditate, I go into nature, I use my camera, I go do photography. And this isn't just in regards to animal conservation. This is anything I'm struggling with in life. I'm going to be doing the things that give me calm and peace and help me to be centered and grounded. Whatever that is for you, do that, unless it's going out shooting animals, in which case don't. But yeah, it's that's my personal means of achieving that is that, I'll go lately. What I've been doing, which might make you think I'm crazy, especially given that it's winter. I live near Richmond Park, where I do a lot of my walking and photography. I've been doing it at night. I've just been getting the urge to go out at night. And it's obviously, when I say at night, I mean in the hours of darkness. So I'll go at 8 p.m. and I'll walk all the way around it, and I'll be done by 11 or 12 midnight. And I'm the only human being in there. I love it. And that's kind of bizarre, but that's a thing that I've just found recently. And and talking to my squirrel, of course, yeah. And you know what's really sad is about the tree over there where the squirrels that was the squirrel highway to my balcony. They put some scaffolding up while I was away, and they chopped the branch. No. And there's no more squirrels. No more squirrels coming to my place, which is horrendous. I love those squirrels to bits, but it saves me about £70 a month on peanuts, so it's probably a good thing in that way. But it's finding that thing for you, whether it's talking to squirrels, whether it's walking around Richmond Park at night, whether it's meditation, whether it's the gym, going for a jog, anything that gives you that calm, peace, whatever it is that you require in order to continue with your work the next day, and then get back on and get on with it. That's all we can. One of the things that I've learned about myself over the years is that, and I think this is true of probably everyone involved in this effort that we're collectively involved in, is if someone had a crystal ball, someone was able to say to me, here, look, I hate to tell you this, dude, but you fight a good fight, but it's not, you lose in the end. Like I've gone public on my Facebook page. It literally says one thing that I'm going to do during this lifetime is end some of the cruelty that we inflict upon animals. I've stated it publicly because that's my intention. I want when I'm gone, I want people to go, oh, that's the guy that stopped lion petting, or that's the guy that stopped, the Romanian dog crisis, or anything you care to mention, because I'm determined that that's what I'm going to do. And it's whatever it takes in order to get back on your horse. And no, don't get back on your horse, because that's also not good. But you know what I mean. Get back in the fight and carry on doing what you do at all costs. And the reason I say that, I know if you cut me in half, like right in my core, I'd be a conservationist right all the way through. Because if someone told me I was going to lose that fight to change whatever it is for the good during my lifetime, do you know what it would change in terms of how I spend my day? It would change nothing. Yeah. On principle alone, I would still fight. Even if I knew I was going to lose at the end, even if I knew I changed nothing, on principle, for those animals that can't fight, I will spend the rest of my life fighting, even if I know I'll lose, which I don't think I will, but I still would. And that's the key thing I think for most of us. What I mean by that is that's why we have to find the centering, the grounding techniques, the things that give us the ability to stand back up and get on with it the next day as well.
And I think, that's an important message, is just never give up. Don't give up hope, and just believe that you can make a difference. And I think that 100%. And so if someone's, they might not have your platform in terms of they're not an actor and they don't have like a public figure, so to speak, what can they do to then help? And also say, we had a question coming through, I think it was from Leslie earlier. So she travels to Africa quite a bit. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want to just give pounds to the tourism industry, but wants to do something meaningful. What can people do?
I think that you can't put enough emphasis on the importance of this kind of thing, sharing messages on social media. And Natasha, how nice to see you. We need to get together. I've missed you guys. Never give up hope. That's something that everyone can do, kind of along the lines of what I was saying before. On a more granular level, like the specifics, what can you do? Get stuff out on social media. Don't hold back. You'll lose followers, you'll lose friends, but who cares? Like, you know what I mean? I think we've got to stand up for what we believe in. I do think there's a way to do it. I don't think any kind of judgmental attitude or preachy attitude helps. I have my views. Everyone knows that. I have my views, but I don't think it helps to voice them in a what's the best word to describe it? I think there's ways of doing it that are constructive and conducive to engaging in conversation and making change. And there's ways for people to build walls. We're human. I mean, that's human nature. No one likes to be told what to do or how to behave, or more importantly, that what they're doing is wrong. So I think it's just like I was saying about, my dad leading by example. Just lead by example. A good example of that is probably every vegan who's on this call will know this exact thing that I'm about to talk about. I'm vegan, and I went vegan about 5 years ago or so. And I've talked. Of course, I'm making a documentary about it, but even the documentary is deliberately not preachy and judgmental. But if it was, I think it would have a detrimental effect. And the fact that it's not, I've had the odd message here and there from people saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, you don't know me, but I just want to let you know I went vegan, having heard something you said, and thanks so much because I feel great." And for every one person that tells me that, I'm assuming there's a couple that haven't told me. And the same, that's nothing to do with the platform, by the way. That's to do with you're at a dinner party with friends and someone's saying, so what do you eat? What do you eat? How do you get protein and all that nonsense? And just living it, I think, has a huge impact. But, you know, like, be your authentic self. That's one of the biggest, most powerful things that anyone can do, is be your authentic self and live fully from that place, because it has a profound impact on people. It's just quiet, it's subtle, but it's profound. It can change people's lives, and you might never know it. They may never make that point to you. They might never say to you, hey, by the way, I went vegan because you are, or I didn't go on a lion petting holiday that I was planning to go on because of what you shared on Facebook, or whatever it may be. It's just as likely, probably more likely, that you'll never know, but I bet it's happening, and therefore we should be living that way. I really think we should, you know, on a daily basis. It's probably the most powerful thing you can do. People probably want more sort of specific answers, and then, you know, in that case, it's things like, you know, just jump on a Born Free website, or the, you know, David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation, or Voice for Asian Elephants, or Remembering Wildlife. Buy a book from Margot. These are specific. These are genuine organizations and individuals doing incredible work. So Margot's, you'll know this from your conversation with Margot. You buy a book from Margot, and it's like, it's one of the highest ratios you can possibly hope for in terms of how much of that money goes to a cause for the animal that's covered in the book that she's dealing with at that particular time. More so than any other charity that I know, because her overheads are so low. She's able to say, we've raised the money to create the book through Kickstarter, so there's no overhead there. We published it based on the money that was already donated. So now the books themselves literally just have to pay for the minor overhead that Margot has. She's not an organization. She doesn't have an office or a team of people. She's an individual doing incredible work, and she's so transparent. You can go and check out any of the campaigns she's done, and you'll see where the money's gone, how it's actually changed things. She's so good at that, and so are all the organizations I deal with, or have have the privilege of supporting and representing. That they are making such a difference. So when you have a relative whose birthday's coming up, don't buy them a candle, or buy them a candle from Born Free, or from another charity that's going to put the money from that towards a campaign or a conservation effort. Buy a book from Margot, beautiful book, some of the best photography in the world in those books, money well spent, beautiful coffee table book for someone, a beautiful gift for someone, and you are making a difference. You're literally making a difference by choosing where you're going to spend your money. So for my birthday and Christmas, about 10 years ago, I prohibited people from buying me gifts and sending me cards. I don't want cards either. I want whatever someone would spend, even if it's £2. Born Free will take that. They'll take £2. Imagine if everyone was saying, oh, you know what, I'm not going to get birthday cards this year. I'm going to give the money to a charity. How many billions would that be? We could wipe out half the problem. So I'd say do that kind of thing, because I know people don't just want to hear the airy fairy spiritual stuff that I come out with. As much as I do stand by that and think it's profoundly important, on a granular level, just adopt someone a panda, not from WWF. Sorry, not from WWF, because their numbers aren't great. I'm not, and also, as everyone knows, I think they may have changed their stance on this, but they did support trophy hunting in certain cases, and we're not having that. I don't care what arguments they come out with. Adopt a lion. You can adopt King from Born Free. Adopt a dolphin, Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society. Any of these things make a very specific, immediate financial impact in a very positive way. Do that. Choose your conservation. In Africa, it's really important. The question, did you say it was Leslie asked the question? I think. Yeah. When you go to Africa, make sure that you're going to places where they have there's a lot of integrity in their conservation, because that's an important part to explore as well, because it's not always the case. Okay. Something else you can do.
Looking forward, what's going to be your next project that you're going to be focusing on?
Well, there's a lot. There's a couple of, I'm really excited about a couple of them, which I can't talk in any detail about. One of them, again, is enacting. Very excited about something that's hopefully in the works. One thing that I have to do before I focus on the next thing is get my documentary finished, because everyone will know. Giles, my good buddy Giles Alderson, and myself have been making a documentary called Food for Thought for about 3 or 4 years now, which is embarrassing, but it's because of the pandemic. You know, we got hit like everybody else did, where we just could not get the things done that we needed to get done in order to finish the film. And we can't, you know, you've got a choice. You can say, okay, well, look, you've got this inclination to get the film out quicker, or get it right and make it a little slower. And I know what we're going to think a year after release. We're not going to be thinking, oh, we should have done it sooner when it wasn't really finished. You know, we've got to get, so the reason I'm saying that is because before I really start focusing on the next things, I have to finish the Food for Thought documentary, which we're so close with. We're about 95% of the way there, and we're aiming for a springtime release. So watch this space for that. A lot of the people on this audience right now will have contributed to that. I wish, Alison. I don't think they go for a 50-year-old James Bond, unfortunately, whose hair is falling out. But I wish. He died in the last one. Oh, that's a massive spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
You've just ruined it. You ruined it.
Ruined it for everyone. I can't understand how that happened. Anyhow, what were we talking about before I ruined the Bond film for everybody?
We're talking about your next project.
Yeah. So we're going to get Food for Thought finished in a hurry, but well, and then right after that, Giles and I are already talking about our next project. On the acting side, as I say, there's something coming up, which is going back to what I said about how important it is to me that all the projects I'm involved in tick the box in terms of having a meaning. They're not just entertainment for entertainment's sake. They have a meaning. And there's a project I'm involved in, and we're hoping in the not too distant future we'll get off the ground, which is a real life-changing endeavor for me and a game changer, I think, for the I don't know how to best describe this. I can't give too much away, but they have a mentality. It's a TV series basically, but that will have as much of an impact as will that granular level contribute to charities. It's a drama TV series. It's a very clever concept, which I just can't go into any detail, but I'm really hopeful that will come off, because it will be huge. And not just significant in my acting career, but significant in terms of what it does, what it gives to the causes that we're so passionate about, which would be amazing, an amazing combination, which in my knowledge doesn't exist anywhere else. So there's that. Yeah, Giles and I, as I say, we're looking at another project as soon as we get Food for Thought done, but we can't really even start talking about that until we've got Food for Thought out. Otherwise people will start rightly slapping us around the face saying, get your documentary finished in 4 years.
So yeah, it sounds like you've got plenty of exciting stuff in the pipeline. So I recommend people to be following Dan's page, so you can keep an eye on exactly what he is doing, and hopefully we can look to that in the future. Okay, I've got one more question left. If you're watching back home and you have a question for Dan, pop it in the comments section and I will do that for you. So I always like to try and end things on a bit of a high, and as we were talking, things can get a bit bleak sometimes. And we touched on it earlier about some of the moments that has been quite inspired you, but have you got a favorite success story?
Oh, well, I mean, it's hard to say that King isn't that favorite success story. I think a lot of this, you're absolutely right, Kathleen, with what you just said, that, and it's really important to end on a high and a positive note, because just like Natasha said a few moments ago, never give up hope. You know, and we don't have any reason to, because we are winning. We are winning in a lot of areas, and there's an awakening happening. For sure there is, because you know, when we went back to that conversation about the pandemic and, you know, did it change people's views and the crossroads people were at, I do believe that ultimately we're winning, because positive change is only going to come when awareness grows, and awareness is growing rapidly. You know, look at what Eduardo Gonçalves is doing with the campaign to ban trophy hunting. He has got such a huge following from his enemies. They wouldn't care less if he wasn't having an impact on them. You know, and that's just one great example. King's another very, you know, granular level example, and the profound impact that had on people in terms of knowing how much of a difference you can make for an individual life, just as you can for a whole species. I think it's an incredibly positive thing when we hear from your friend again, forgive me if I'm wrong, was it Loti with the 15 red wolves?
Yeah.
Red wolves. What an incredible thing. We got down to the last 15 of a species, but someone stepped up. It's not, you're not going to hear in the news, oh, another species is extinct because Loti didn't step up. You're hearing she did step up, and we're going to get right behind her. There's so much positive going on. There's so much to celebrate. And going back to my spiritual airy fairy stuff, I genuinely believe that we don't have to convert everybody. There's a tipping point that we'll reach. We only have to convert a small number of people, which is why it's so important to reach outside of our community, outside of our circle of people already engaged in conservation, because very soon you'll get to it. It's that kind of snowball effect. Once it gains its own momentum, there's no stopping it. And I promise you, we're getting there. We are getting there. I see it every single day, and it's that's why it's worth finding those things that ground you and center you, and getting up and carrying on with the cause the next day, because we're winning. And that whole point I made about I'd carry on even if I didn't think I would win, I do think we're going to win, because we are. And you look at examples that you can't argue with, like the fact that Animals Asia, another incredible organization founded by Jill Robinson. Look at what's just happened. Was it South Korea? They've just now announced that the whole Eduardo is a hero. Exactly right. Animals Asia, just go to Animals Asia Facebook page. You'll see what I'm talking about. They've just been promoting the fact that forgive me if I'm wrong, I think it was South Korean government have banned bear bile farming. Hundreds of bears are going to be relocated by the government into a sanctuary, various different locations where we're not talking zoos, we're not talking out of the frying pan into the fire. We're talking an end to a cruelty that is just abhorrent and is the reason why Jill Robinson founded Animals Asia. They've succeeded. We're not talking about a little win. We're talking about a country has banned this horrific act of bear bile farming. Those are not isolated cases. Talk to Peter Egan, about the dog meat industry over in the Far East, and the wins that they've had since he put himself through some pain. My God, I've never seen anyone look so broken as he did when he did his talks from, I think it was, where was he now? I want to say South Korea again, but wherever he was, I've never seen someone look so broken. A beautifully compassionate man, seeing abject horrors and cruelty being inflicted upon animals. And guess what? It's gone. Yeah. Gone. They've managed to change things so drastically on that scale, as at the same time as you've got these smaller wins where there's an individual animal being saved from a circus, or in King's case, that a dog cage in Paris, and all these incredible wins. Seek out those victories, because it's reason to celebrate, and it will. And that's another great example of what you can do, whether it's walking in nature, meditating, going to the gym, seeking out some good news stories. Don't watch the bad news stories all the time, because it's not true. It's like there's plenty of victories, and we just got to keep going, because there's going to be more.
And we've got a question coming through from Stacey. Hi, Stacey. She is a regular watcher and also was hounding you, I believe, to come on the show as well. And she's saying that the travel industry also needs to encourage their clients not to engage in wildlife interactions. And that kind of fits quite nicely. We had a guest on at the very start of the year. We had Duncan McNair from Save the Asian Elephants Foundation. And they were doing a big petition to stop the travel industry from being able to promote it and to sell tickets to these kind of things. What kind of advice would you give here as well?
Well, that's absolutely great point, Stacey, and completely correct. And I would say, first and foremost, boycott them. Like the travel agencies, the travel industry, the big players who, for example, sell tickets to SeaWorld. And we had a victory here. Talking about victories, I can't, again, my memory, you know how bad it is. Someone will comment it, I'm sure. One of the big travel companies, which I can't for the life of me even think of one name of a travel company, but they just stopped promoting any attraction which involved animals in captivity. And I'm talking about one of the biggest ones. It was like, I can't even remember that. I can't even have a stab at it because I can't remember the name of any. All that's coming to mind is Travelocity, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't them. It was bigger. Someone will say it now. It was a huge victory. Like Virgin Airways, Virgin Atlantic used to not just sell their flights, but they say, oh, while you're in Florida, do you want a ticket to this attraction or that attraction, SeaWorld, this and I believe Virgin may have been one of them that stopped as well. The only thing that drives these people is money. So when I say it's so important to boycott these organizations, if you buy a ticket through these agencies, these travel companies for anything, then you're reinforcing their business where they're selling to SeaWorld, and you're not restricted to just buying from one place. So go buy it from anywhere that doesn't. Then the big question is, well, then who doesn't? How do you find out who doesn't? And that's a really important part of this, which is, we need to know who's got the ethics and who's got a compassionate policy towards that kind of thing. And they're out there advertising themselves, same as restaurants are advertising a vegan menu, because they know it's starting to matter to people, which is again why I say I know we're winning this. This is the change that we're seeing happen. There's an enormous change happening. So I would absolutely start by just seeking out, make it your business to find those organizations. Because see, one of the things we're really bad at, we as a species, we're really lazy. So if you're online trying to book a holiday and you're thinking, I remember someone saying once, you should be really careful not to book through an unethical organization. Do a little bit of research to find out who is ethical. And after 5 minutes, if you haven't found it, you're going to be like, I'm just going to book it. And I'm guilty of that too. And we can't do that. We have to put the time and effort in, because if that's not a massive amount. That's not a big ask. It's not a massive amount of effort for a hugely important principle. That's what it is. It's a principle. So I don't have that sort of list. I'm sure someone will create it, and I must talk about something similar in a second. But when you find out about an organization that does have ethics and doesn't sell tickets to SeaWorld, doesn't promote animals in captivity or whatever else they do that we disagree with, advertise it, like promote the hell out of it on your Facebook page and tell people, hey, if you're going on holiday to this country, just to let you know, you should buy from these people because they don't support X, Y, and Z. Just the same as I said, don't contribute to WWF until they absolutely flat out stop supporting trophy hunting. Word gets out, people are good at that. And if you've got no reason not to, then you will. Someone's got the choice of buying a holiday from this company or that company, and the price isn't different. They'll go for the one that someone's told them is ethical. So I think we need to make it our business to do that. That's the work we can all do to make a difference. And but it's a very, very valid point Stacey makes. We've got to be mindful of that when we're spending our money.
I just did a quick Google as you were chatting, and it was Expedia that the ones that had stopped. Couldn't
remember the name of them. It's huge. It's the biggest travel company. Expedia stopped selling tickets to animal attractions with animals in captivity, animals being exploited. Expedia. So the fact that they've done that now, of course, I'm sure that someone who knows at more depth what's going on there could probably say, yeah, but they're still doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm sure there are examples of things they're doing that we would all be a little bit disappointed in. But if they're prepared to go to the extent of saying, okay, we're going to stop selling tickets to SeaWorld because it's so reviled by so many people, then I say we support them, So thank you for checking on that. How did I not remember the name Expedia? That's what I mean about my memory. It's ludicrous.
There's also someone that I had on the show, back in 2020, I think it was. And it's an organization called Terra Incognita. And they actually do all their, everything that they do is about travel and sustainable travel, and making sure it's ethical travel as well. So there's a site that you can check out there. So they do lots of different outdoors adventure tours. They're the partner of, they don't actually do it themselves, but they are all ethical and sustainable, and do not do any forms of animal interactions or anything like that. So you can check
awesome that. Thank you so much for sharing that. See, that's what I mean. There we go. Just from that little conversation, now I know about an organization that has those ethics that are in line with mine. And that's enormously important. And then you could also say, okay, great. So now I know where to get my holidays. What about when I go shopping at home locally? One of the organizations I'm very proud to be a patron for is the Naturewatch Foundation here in the UK. So we're talking about lions, and we're talking about stray dogs in Romania and elephants in Asia and all these wonderful things that need our protection. And absolutely, I support. But then Naturewatch Foundation is the homegrown issues, like the badger baiting, the fox hunting, the pheasant shooting, anything that's homegrown issues that we also want to deal with. They deal with those things. And what they have is an incredibly powerful and useful, what's called the compassionate shopping guide. So the questions that we could ask about all of the products we buy, the same as we just talked about the questions we can ask about travel agencies, and using the ethical ones, Naturewatch have done the work for us.
Yeah.
So you can check out the compassionate shopping guide, knowing, and by the way, their criteria are so stringent. And as Adam says, oh, hey, Adam, good to see you, man. They do incredible work. They have the most stringent criteria for making that compassionate shopping guide list. By what I mean by that, I mean it's not just okay for a little chain of shops to say we don't use animals products tested on animals. The Naturewatch Foundation will take it a step further than that and say, oh, who's your parent company? And do they test on animals? And who's the umbrella company that owns the parent company? Do they? And until they've ticked every box to say, nope, it's ethical the whole way up and down the chain, doesn't make the list. So you can buy from that compassionate shopping guide. All the work's been done for you. It's constantly being reviewed and updated. It's available on their website, I'm quite sure. And it's that amazing work that's already been done for us, where you can just go shopping with a clear conscience. And like I try and shop in Whole Foods, and I'm sure there's issues with that, at least not the fact that you need to remortgage your house to shop there, but you go into their toiletries section, and you know that everything's cruelty free and vegan, or at least cruelty free, and then I seek out the vegan stuff. And yep. So as much as the work can be done for us, let's jump on that, leverage it, and just buy from those guides. And I know that people could go, okay, but then it does get pricey. Well, I'm prepared to part with more of my cash to know that my conscience can be clear. Personally, I think it's a choice I've made, and I do spend extra on that. I've got my electricity coming from and gas coming from the most expensive supplier in the UK. I'm not going to name them because it's probably a bit unfair, but they're the most expensive in the UK because they're the greenest.
Yeah.
And I don't think that will change unless people are prepared to support them while they're the most expensive. Then same as everything else, the demand goes up, the price comes down.
Exactly that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now. We've had some wonderful comments as we've been talking. Thank you everyone for watching. We've had people from South America, Africa, the US, Europe. So it's been absolutely wonderful to see you all guys tuning in. Is there anything you want to finish with before we say goodbye, Dan?
I just want to say thank you to you for having me on. It's such a pleasure and a privilege. I kind of want to say sorry as well to everyone, because I know I've been absent lately, as I alluded to, a family health crisis, which is ongoing, and it's not one that's going to go away. And it has taken a lot of my focus, but it doesn't change the fact that this is my purpose in life, just like I said. And I realize I've been quite absent from social media. I won't be long. I'll be back. And there's still stuff happening in the background. It's just not perhaps as publicly visible. So I'm not going anywhere. But again, to you, Kathleen, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to talk to you and to these wonderful folks who've been listening today. And thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. We've got a question asking if it's going to be available to watch after, because someone missed the start. Yes, it will. You can see it. It will remain on our Facebook pages. So if you didn't get an option to watch it in full live, you can do so at your own leisure. And if you do have a question that you didn't manage to get to Dan, or I didn't manage to get to Dan, then again, please do pop it in the comments section and we'll try and do that for you. Again, thank you so much for joining. As Dan said a few times, please do spread awareness by going on Facebook, using social media to your advantage so that people are aware of all these incredible organizations that are out there that are doing work to help protect wildlife, animals and wild spaces. Thank you everyone for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.